Hello and welcome to this carrier update brought to you by Powerfleet. I'm here with the one, the only Thomas Watson. I see we have a map. Good morning.
Always start with a map. It is definitely a good Monday morning, and looking at the nation so far, we have some positivity if you're a carrier at least. Looking at Detroit and parts of Colorado, it looks like tender rejections have surprisingly moved up. Unfortunately for the rest of the country, we're still moving down for the most part, at least for outbound tender ejections. I always like to start off with a map just to have an idea of Cape Girardeau. We talked about it last week, finally coming down whatever the heck they were shipping. Cough, cough, Procter & Gamble more than likely. But, you know, looking at springtime, not only do you get pop-up showers and crazy storms, you also get seasonality and freight. We haven't seen that in a while, but it appears to be making a comeback. Kicking over to our next chart real fast here. This is the haul index. If it's blue, there's more loads outbound than going in. If it's red, you better find a load going out early and often. So, you know, looking at some of the fringes here, Florida, traditionally still considered backhaul, struggling. Parts of Houston as well. And, you know, looking at the nationwide, if you want to be profitable at the end of the day, checking out this chart, find markets that are blue, go to the next one, increase your odds of success.
I think this is a great map that we don't look at enough, I think, sometimes, and it tells a lot of information. So real quick, breaking down the head haul map, this is just showing what's going out of these regions, is that right?
Correct. So it's an inbound, outbound. It's almost, if you work for any large carriers as well, they have their own internal, board, which is in terms of capacity. But this is our data that's showing nationwide the amount of loads that have been recorded coming out versus in. So you can almost get a good feel for, you know, if I'm wanting to look and say where I'm going to go, or if I'm planning loads. Anything generally in blue statistically, I'm going to have an easier time booking out compared to if it's really dark red, which shows that there is a significant amount of more inbound loads than loads coming out.
Got you. And Thomas, I mean, I see Florida here just in as bright as red as it can be. That's not too much of a surprise, I don't think, but are there any surprises that you're seeing kind of popping up in blue here?
You know, I think it's really interesting, especially in parts of Detroit. We saw that outbound tender ejections have spiked, but if we still look at the market itself, there's a severe imbalance of inbound and outbound freight. So, you know, that one comes as very much a surprise. Looking at parts of Arizona, Northern California, you're going to get those areas, you know, Inland Empire and everything. But the blue coming out of California, even though we're still in a situation where tenders are extremely low in terms of rejection rates, it's very impressive that, you know, there's still a huge amount of volume. It's just capacity has moved in to meet demand.
Got you, Thomas. And what else do we have today?
Coming up on chart number 3, I actually put like 9 charts in here, so we have a packed show if we need be. But outbound tender volumes, this is what's interesting. Looking at a 6-month snapshot, and you know, if you're looking at our time year over year, we're about 12,737 on the index. Think like Dow Jones almost. This point last year, we're at 15,223. So kind of weird times. We're asking about seasonality. The last time we saw seasonality was around, you know, 2019 to 2020, where we saw what could be considered a traditional spring surge. And so, you know, we actually are seeing somewhat, some call it the dead cat bounce, but the dead freight bounce, the starter doesn't work bounce. I don't know what the trucking term for this is, but, you know, we were talking about the conversation for the past 6 weeks have been declining tenders. And so it's very interesting. We're actually seeing, you know, not much of a plateau, but we're seeing upward movement. So volatility still remains, you know, asking, if you ask why, how could it be? We're looking at a 70% snapshot of a contracted market. So now that we're seeing transportation savings, shippers appear to be taking advantage of it. So maybe a second win, so to speak, while you have lower spot prices. Kicking over to our next chart real fast. Looking at the rejections, this is what's interesting. We see a situation where volumes are moving up. Rejections are still going down. Look at the refrigerated, 11.3%. Holy cow, it can pass a breathalyzer now. We're moving up in the world of reefers. So looking at flatbeds as well, we are still very strong at 29.17%. So it's almost a tale of two markets. Anything that's on a van or refrigerated trailer, we're still seeing quite a bit of situations where capacity can meet demand. But, you know, when we are looking at open deck as well as construction, you know, it is still extremely strong. So a lot of fundamental macro things impacting our manufacturing sectors, it looks like.
Definitely a lot of fundamental macro things that we're going to dive into, I think, a little bit later on today. Thomas, thank you so much for joining us for this first carrier update. We're going to go over to our first Next segment, we're going to toss it over to Sydney Edwards, who's going to have a special guest here with us.